Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
This is oh so true. Only in America, terrorists kill people in the name of Allah and then have the media primarily react by fretting and fearing that Muslims might be harmed by the backlash. Only in America. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America on a Monday, followed by a pledger with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Kate Smith, and God bless America. I hope he does. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, and they include Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call Kelly, 734-6969. And let's not go any further before we say good morning to Gina, and saw you Saturday night.
Well, good morning, sunshine, and yes, you did, and it was a wonderful event. I really enjoyed it.
We're speaking, of course, about the Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North speech for the Patriots Night put on at the King Fine Arts Center. Anna Workman on behalf of the Chris Workman Scholarship Fund, and it was very nice, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for being there. I noticed you were there with James and your brother, and my goodness, you were in a good escort there that night.
I was in very good company, and the presentation was just beautiful, and I honestly have to say that I had tears streaming down my cheeks quite a few times.
And that's not to be ashamed. I also did, and I'm proud to say that.
It was beautiful.
Absolutely. We're going to talk more about this in just a moment, but do we have a pledger?
We have Mr. Al Butler on for the pledge and Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very good. All right, Al, good morning to you, my dear friend.
Good morning, and I didn't set the alarm off with her singing either.
Okay, go ahead, my friend.
And I will apologize to Linda for what I did.
Okay.
Being said, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Al. Good to hear from you this morning.
You betcha. And keep it up and have a very good week.
I will, my friend. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people have asked me about my shell on my pickup. Well, the truth is, and I've mentioned this, wherever I'm going, wherever I've been, I want to make sure that everything I put in my truck bed always arrives with me, whether it's tools, groceries, saddles, tack, blankets, bridles, whatever. And that's why I've been telling you folks to get a Save on Shell. That's right, 1835 Overland in Burley. Call Anthony and stop in, 312-1525. Save on Shells. I'll tell you more about them in a minute, but right now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Good morning, everybody. A lot of sunshine to start off this Monday, a brand spanking new week of you, me, Zeb at the Ranch, and weather. Going to look for a high today of about 62. It's going to be breezy today. That's going to make things uncomfortable with the high being 62. Looking for winds out of the west-southwest at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Not a bad evening, clear. 42 for the overnight low. Winds are going to die down to about 15. And then tomorrow, the first of a weather situation that we will possibly get all summer long is known as a dry, cold front. That means you get everything but the of precipitation on the ground. In the Magic Valley of South Central Idaho, when you get these dry cold fronts, you get wind with this. You're looking for winds 25, 35, possibly gusting to 50 tomorrow. And then it'll die down, and we'll finish out the week with some nice weather. But get used to dry cold fronts, because you get them all the time, right through spring, right through summer, going into September and October. So, that being said, have yourself a great week. Have yourself a great Monday. Enjoy the weather. It is the only weather you've got.
There you go, MichaelRogersWeather.com, the best weatherman in the US of A, and brought to you by Save On Shells. Now, they've got the new ARE shells, many, many different models. They've got all the pickup bed slides. Boy, I tell you what, those are really work savers. They've got a fantastic selection of used shells for your pick-em-up trucks, too, I'll tell you. And don't forget installation parts and service. These people really are the best. How do I know? I bought one from Save On Shells. Absolutely, 1835 Overland and Burley. Number to call, Anthony at 312-1525. Save On Shells. Good morning, everybody, and I want to go through a couple of notes here real quick, and then we'll get some more of our advertisers on the air. I want to say a very nice evening again to the King Fine Arts Center, Anna Workman, and everybody involved with putting on Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. We had a very nice meet and greet beforehand, excellent barbecue, and I met so many nice people. I don't want to leave anybody out, but special thanks to like Mr. and Mrs. Bob Ward up there at Elmo and the Bryces, and just there was everybody there. It was just really nice, very nice. Thank you for showing up at the King Fine Arts Center. On a very serious note, I want to issue condolences to the Martin family and the loss of Betty Martin. We all knew Betty very well, and she always had a smile and something very nice to say to everybody, and she suffered a long, long time. And right now I know she's in a much better place with a big smile on her face, and she's going to really be an asset to the angels in heaven. Very nice lady, Betty Martin, and so we wish the best to the family. And, oh, by the way, too, we had two visitors at the ranch on Saturday, and that was Kilt Man and his lovely wife stopped by to say hello. It was such a blessing to meet them and get a chance to visit with them, so congratulations to them. Thanks for coming on by. We'll take some calls in just a minute, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Honestly, the best in the world. I swear by what they do. I've been all over the world with clothes that needed to be cleaned, and nobody does the job like Daryl's Cleaners. Stop in, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And don't forget, they've got prepaid gift cards. What a great gift to give somebody to have your clothes cleaned at Daryl's Cleaners in Burley. Also, our thanks go out to SafeLink Internet. I'm pretty doggone high on their program. I mean, holy smokes. SafeLink Internet is Idaho's #1 choice for high-speed wireless internet, and I'm telling you the number right now so you can give them a call and get on the program like we have been here for a long, long time, and that's 677-8000, 677-8000, and they've got a customer referral program where you can receive credit to your account by referring other people to SafeLink Internet. Do it today. Call them 677-8000, SafeLink Internet. Oh, boy. Let's take care of a couple of other things real quick, and then I want to get into a very, very serious story this morning because it's expanding. It's bigger than I anticipated, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Later on this morning, we are going to be talking about illegal aliens that are teaching in our school systems. And we're going to talk to Frosty Woldridge about that at 9:06 this morning. But picture this. We've got a lot of veterans coming back home from Afghanistan, and many that also were in Iraq, etc., that have teaching degrees, and they can't find jobs. But we're hiring illegal aliens to teach in our public school system. Think about it, and boy, I can't wait to mention it to Frosty later on this morning at about 9:06. Denny's Restaurant, oh my goodness, I'll guarantee you they can help you with the best of food for your hunger pangs. Oh my, 611 Overland in Burley, and believe me, we have just absolutely been tickled to death to move our lunch bunch over there, and believe me, they've got, on certain days, they've got where kids eat free, they've got seniors, special menu, and AARP discounts. Holy smokes, the menu is fantastic. The service is great at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and our next lunch bunch is going to be on April 24th, Thursday, April 24th. Don't you miss it. It's going to be great at Denny's. You better believe it. And I want to remind you, too, that there's all kinds of Holy Week services going on. I was sent this new note from the Rupert United Methodist Church. They're going to have Maundy Thursday service. It's going to be starting, let me get this here, at 5:30 p.m. with a potluck dinner. And then they're going to have Good Friday services at 7 on Good Friday. And then on Easter Sunday, a worship at 11 o'clock. I just thought I'd pass that along to you. Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. My goodness sakes, everything there. And fishing and hunting licenses and tags can be purchased at Valleywide. And they've got all the pipe moving aprons for moving your irrigation pipe. And they've got all the 4-H needs. And don't forget, too, if you're a 4-H'er, you get a 10% discount on 4-H feed, haulers, show sticks, whatever you need. At Valleywide Home and Ranch, Steve and the rest of the crew, and man, they've got a great boot selection over there, too. 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Good people serving you at Valleywide Home and Ranch. You stop in and see them today. Ladies and gentlemen, the story of the Bundy's family down in the Mesquite, Bunkerville, and St. George area is expanding, getting bigger and far more serious than what we anticipated. I know that a lot of you folks out there, especially some of the ranchers, are bitter, and you have every right to be. I think that if Mr. Bundy, Cliven Bundy, didn't pay his grazing fees, why should he be a special case? And I'm totally in agreement with you. However, there are some twists and turns that are happening with this story that I think all of us should be cognizant of. Over the weekend, I had a chance to call down and visit with the Bundy family. I caught, I'm not going to mention which one it was, but I did call right to the home address number and talk to the Bundys. And they also told me that this story is much deeper than grazing fees. This story is much, much deeper and more worrisome than the desert tortoise. And then all of a sudden I started to get some notes of email. And they started on Saturday with some stories about how Harry Reid and his son are tied into this somehow. Well, at first I took it as internet stories that were possibly not validated, but then all of a sudden this morning, I was on the phone at about 7 o'clock, and Deanne got a urgent fax and email, I should say, from Newsmax magazine. And Newsmax is very reputable, and the writer that wrote this story is also very reputable, Greg Richter. And the headline was, Reports Company Tied to Reid's Son Wants Land in Bundy Standoff. Now, I think in order to do this justice, I'm going to read you the first 3 paragraphs of this story and let you be the judge on this story. But before I do that, let me also tell you about Ramsey Heating and Electric. Don't forget that Mr. Ramsey called his supplier for incandescent light bulbs, and they're completely out. So whatever's left over at Ramsey Heating and Electric, it's time to go get them. They've got the 40, 60, 75, or 100-watt bulbs over there in clear or frosted, so you better get in there. And they've also got a lot of other light bulbs for outside lighting, lamps, CFL bulbs, and everything, Bubs. Hey, Bub, how you doing? Good. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Go to the light, get all your electrical needs at Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. All right, let's get into this story here a little bit. I'm going to read it as it came across from Newsmax this morning. The Nevada rancher who forced the Federal Bureau of Land Management to back down last week may have been targeted because of a Chinese solar company with ties to Senator Harry Reid's son that wants the land for an energy plant. A report on GodfatherPolitics.com says Chinese energy giant ENN Energy Group wants to use federal land as part of its efforts to build a $5 billion, that's with a B, solar farm and panel building plant in the southern Nevada desert. Rory Reid, the son of Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, is representing the Chinese company, ENN, in their efforts to locate in Nevada. Now, part of the land ENN wants to use was purchased from Clark County at well below, keep that in mind, the appraised value. Rory Reid is the former Clark County Commission chairman, and he persuaded the commission to sell 9,000 acres of county land to ENN on the promise it would provide jobs for the area. Now, here's where the plot thickens a little bit more. In addition to the county acreage, the Federal Bureau of Land Management at one time was looking at BLM property under dispute with cattle rancher Cliven Bundy. But the BLM is headed by former Harry Reid senior policy advisor Neil Corns. According to BizPac Review, the BLM documents indicate that the federal property for which Bundy claims grazing rights were under consideration by a solar company. These documents have since been removed from the BLM website. This stinks. This whole thing stinks. First of all, a question I have and a concern I have, and I want to get your opinion on this. Call me at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Why a Chinese company? Why a Chinese energy company instead of an American company? And you keep looking into this mess with the cronyism between Harry Reid's son, Rory, and then a senior policy advisor, Neil Corns, that was a former policy advisor to Harry Reid on the commission. All of this reeks. It stinks of cronyism. And what other point that I want to make here this morning is that these absolutely brain-dead environmentalists, they're yelling and screaming, saying that the cows have been negative to their habitat. The BLM has been literally killing these tortoises because there are too many of them in this concentrated area, or they've been moving them. Now, let me just read you a quote from Newsmax again. The BLM claims a need to control grazing on the land to protect an endangered desert tortoise. But others note that in August, the tortoise population in a nearby conservation center was set to be euthanized because of underfunding. And they go on and say the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service denied those reports, saying that only unhealthy tortoises would be euthanized and others would be relocated. But KVVU-TV in Las Vegas reported that the agency didn't say how many of the tortoises in its care were deemed healthy. And this whole story just gets dirtier and dirtier because it's been reported that Harry Reid pressured the BLM to change the tortoises protected zone to accommodate developer Harvey Whitmore, one of the Democrats' top donors. Whitmore, by the way, was convicted in May of 2013 of making illegal campaign contributions to Harry Reid. This stinks. Absolutely stinks. And with Harry Reid, his son, the Chinese, and this commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot more to this story than just cattle grazing on BLM land. Your thoughts are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Penetron Soil Conditioner by Maisie has a 20-year proven record of increasing yield and quality of all Idaho crops with 30 interactive components, speeding germination, reducing crusting, improving stands, stimulating root growth and microbial activity, and building soil structure. And by the way, the low-cost Penetron will save on irrigation water, and the savings of the water alone will pay for the product. That's right. Better quality, higher crop yields, Penetron by Maisie. You contact your fertilizer dealer, crop advisor today and get Penetron by Maisie. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, if you've ever driven south of Las Vegas down to Laughlin, you'll see another solar project that has been built. And at that time, the desert tortoise was an issue, but they obviously conveniently made it a non-issue so that Harry Reid could, enable that to happen. And so this is these land deals, and if you do research on Harry Reid, the reason why he is a rich man is because he has been doing this kind of thing since he's been elected into office. And there's just been no way, obviously, to pin it on him.
Well, this
remains to be seen if we'll be able to pin it on them.
Yeah, I know, but here's the thing.
Excuse me.
Randy, I know.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm almost at a hard break and I got another call waiting, but I just want to say this to you. Yes, I know the area very well. Very well. I've done a lot of rodeos down in that area over at Logandale, and I've been through that area with St. George and Mesquite, Bunkerville, everything. I know exactly what you're talking about. But this whole story stinks. It stinks. It needs deodorant really bad because there's so many twists and turns in this story with Harry Reid, his son, the Chinese, and solar panels, and the coercion of solar coming in. There's so much more I want to say about this, but right now I'm at a time sake. But I know the area, but your thoughts about Harry Reid and the commission, this stinks.
Well, I had 2 to 3 nephews who lived down there. One of them was part of the militia. And we got a tweet back from him, or whatever you want to call it, and saying that we were victorious and the cattle were free. They've been, the Bundy family has been grazing on this land since 1877, and things are grandfathered in. And, it's a funny thing, but in 1976, the year we elected Jimmy Carter is when they decided to seize all of this public land in the West and not deem it, switch title over to the states. That's another story in itself.
It is. I agree, Randy. Thank you so much. Caller, real quick. I'm running hard on a hard break, and I'll get you on. Go ahead.
Yes, my comment is, how come somebody's not going after Reid to get him out of office? If the guy is this dishonest, why is he representing our people?
Well, I can answer that, Jerry. Jerry, just a minute. You asked me a question. Let me answer it quickly. I can tell you quickly because the Obama administration is pursuing very aggressive campaigns designed to have a chilling effect on journalists. That is a quote from former CBS reporter Sharyl Attkisson. She said that a lot of the stories that are given to the American public are taken back and kind of washed clean so they're not incriminating. And so that's an answer right there.
Well, and that's another crying shame. Our journalists need to be honest people and report honest facts.
Absolutely.
And I'll get out of the way. It just makes me almost sick to my stomach. I won't say almost. Very sick to my stomach.
I agree with you.
Stuff like this.
I agree with you.
About people who are elected to represent we the people.
Amen, Jerry. Well stated.
Do not do their job.
Well stated, my dear friend. God bless you. Jerry Voss, I appreciate you as always. I know you're going to stand up for what's right. I have got to stand up for a hard break real quick, and then we'll take some more calls right after the break. Travel Loop Supply, 1050 West, 203 south of Hayburn. Jim McCall and the rest of the crew. I'm telling you what, folks, they've got filters. Oh, boy, have they got filters for all your equipment. Older equipment, everything, and save a lot of money. And don't forget they got all your bolts, metric and standard bolts, bolt bins. They've got all your oils, everything, your shop tools, it's all there. They deliver the goods. Travelube Supply, 1050 West, 203 South of Hayburn, 438-8730. It is time for the Capital Press Ag Minute, and it's brought to you this hour by our friends with Lennox Home Comfort Systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here is the Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. Continued strength in global beef markets, led by extraordinary growth in Chinese demand and drought in major beef exporting countries, will continue in the second quarter of 2014. Rabobank stated in its beef quarterly report released last week, global beef production levels are high and supplies of fed cattle are tightening. The three main beef exporting countries, Australia, Brazil, and the U.S., are all suffering complications and stress due to drought. Brazilian cattle prices and exports have surged to record levels, and Australian droughts have encouraged historically high slaughter levels. Combined with further tightening supplies in the U.S., prospects for the global beef industry are positive. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Oh, thank you very much. Brought to you again by our friends with Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, looking at this situation with the Bundys, and again, I am not taking the side of anyone that has not paid a quote-unquote bill for their AUMs, their grazing fees, etc. But there's so much more to this story. There's so much more than perhaps the finger pointing at the Bundys or the finger pointing at the Desert Tortoise or the finger pointing at the BLM. And when you start finger pointing, then you start hearing stories about Harry Reid's son involvement, of course Harry Reid also, and then others that have ties to Harry Reid with their donating to his cause to be reelected. And you start talking about county commissioners involved in this thing, and you start talking about the Chinese energy giant ENN wanting to use our federal land to build a $5 billion with a B solar farm and panel building plant. Chinese buying our country, America, for their plant, their financial gain. And I don't know, maybe I'm missing something here, but I'm outraged about this. I am absolutely outraged about this, that why isn't this on every network? Why isn't this on every single network as a lead story about the Chinese trying to build this huge plant, trying to come in on that land where the Bundys are running their cattle? Oh, it doesn't make any difference about the Desert Tortoise. If they put the solar plant there, they've got to move them. They will be quick fried in a solar plant area. But none of this is coming out. Why? Well, the answer is obvious. Trying to cover up the names and trying to cover up the sources is excellent for the Obama administration. I read this story by Sharyl Attkisson. I don't know if you know who she is. She used to be one of the top lead reporters for the CBS Evening News. She's not there anymore. She quit on her own volition. And she said she was sick and tired of this current administration, the Obama administration, having so much power that they basically pressured the news media to retract or change stories. Now, ladies and gentlemen, maybe this doesn't mean anything to you. It does to me. Because being in the radio, television, and journalistic business, to have this administration put the thumb out and put the thumb down on people in the media, whether it's freedom of the press, freedom of speech, talk show, whatever it might be, it's very, very scary and chilling. Gina's turning her microphone on, and I tell you what, I've got this whole interview with Sharyl Attkisson right here in front of me on how she says basically the American public is not being told the news the way it should be reported because the Obama administration is having a chilling effect on it. What does that make you feel?
Well, as part of the news media, it makes I'm angry about it. But this is my main concern. Why is it that the major networks don't have any backbone to stand up to the Obama administration and say, you know what, this is a part of free speech. This is a part of the First Amendment rights. And as a member of the Society of Professional Journalists, we're going to report the story. We're going to report the story correctly. And if you have an issue with that, well, then maybe you shouldn't be doing these things. However, that's not what the major networks are doing. They're bowing down and they're allowing the government to say, okay, well, this is what you can report on and this is what you can't. That is not the role of the government to do. And the major networks, they're just bowing down to it. They don't have any backbone.
Listen to this. I mean, she goes on and she said, and this is her words, not mine, that both the internal and external pressures to kill stories critical of the Obama administration were stronger and more forceful than they had ever been in her 20 years at CBS. Now, that's very chilling to me. And when you're talking about negativity, and you're talking about Harry Reid, and you're talking about his son, you're talking about the Chinese, you're talking about solar, and you're talking about county commissioners that did things under the table to help Harry Reid get reelected, that's all part of stories that are stymied by this Obama administration. You know, we've really got some problems in this country, folks. Wake up and smell the coffee. This Obama administration is comprised of a bunch of crooks.
Amen.
This worries me.
I can't disagree with you on that because it truly is. And what my main concern is that the major news media outlets, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, that they're bowing down to this. Now, I would like to know what the internal and external pressures are. And why are not these supposed journalists actually having a backbone and saying, okay, well, I'm not going to abide by this, and I'll go rogue and go on my own.
Yeah.
This particular journalist, and that's what I would do.
Well, let me ask
Report the story properly. Don't bow down to what the federal government wants.
Let me make this assertion to you, okay? Again, this is opening up because of the Bundys and their cattle, their grazing fees, etc. But would we have known about we always had been told the desert tortoise was an endangered species that, oh my goodness, had to be protected in its habitat and environment. Were we not?
Yes, we were.
Okay, well then, were we told before this that U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the BLM had either moved them to another area so it would be more copacetic to somebody else's land, or had been euthanizing them? Yeah. No, this story would have never come out.
No, none of the story would have ever come out. And then thankfully we do have some underground news media outlets who are actually going out and gathering this information and disseminating it, and we're lucky enough to catch it before it's actually taken down off the internet.
I've got to pay some bills here real quick, and then we'll take those calls. Don't go away, callers. I want to get you on the air. Don't forget our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Oh, my goodness, they've got 3 locations to serve you. Twin Falls, Burley, Jerome, and that new location right there at Highway 30, 159 West Highway 30. Fantabulous. And I tell you, Eli and the crew and Nick and everybody else really serving you. They've got Coyote tractors all over the place. They've got the Doosan loaders. Oh, they got a big one right there in front of the store there at 159 West Highway 30. Absolutely will get the job done for you. They've got all the Walker mowers. I mean, whether you're buying or whether you're renting, you get into Berry Equipment and Rental, and they'll take care of you. I promise you that. And Twin Falls on Addison Avenue, in Jerome on South Lincoln, and in Burley, 159 West Highway 30. It is Berry Equipment and Rental serving you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hello, Zeb.
Yes, talk to me, caller.
Yeah, Zeb, this deal with this Bundy, they're down there in Nevada, you've got, you were saying the other day, you couldn't figure out why that sheriff and stuff didn't get involved. He's right in the middle of this Harry Reid deal. And that BLM deal, some of them head boys probably right in the middle of the damn thing. But I don't know, this might be the wake-up call for the big revolution on this, everything.
I really agree with you that I'm just fed up with hearing all these sideline stories. And if I didn't trust the person that wrote this story and the source that it came from, I would have never put it on the air. But I'm telling you, there's so much more to it than cattle, grazing, and BLM land. It's really scary.
Well, and the money's probably going right up to the top, right up to the man sitting in the White House.
Yeah, I would not doubt anything, the way things are going in this country. But, this might be, like you mentioned, a wake-up call for America to realize that we have let powerful people come in and be absolutely criminal in their effect on the American public and some of their dealings. It's a wake-up call, George. It's a wake-up call.
It is, and it's going to be. I think this might be the deal that broke the camel's back on that bunch of liberals, but I don't know.
I hope so.
Hopefully it'll get somebody stirred up.
I hope so, and it's going to take the American public to get stirred up and stay stirred up. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. God bless. Have a good day. Thank you. Caller, don't forget, I'll be right with you. I just got to tell everybody that every Thursday, right here at 9:12 on my program, we have Gardening for Idiots, named after me, sponsored by Vicky's Country Garden at 185 South 600 West of Paul. She knows all about gardening, and she can help you on the radio program with your gardening. I don't care what it is, from the planting to everything else, the care and the maintenance. Vicky knows it at Vicky's Country Garden over in Paul. Number to call, 438-5663. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Well, good morning. How's my favorite rodeo announcer?
Very good, thank you. What can I do for you?
I was really impressed and pretty proud of the citizens that were able to get down there and help the Bundy family out, and stood with him side by side against the BLM and the Forest Service and the federal government, and wouldn't back down. They were told to, and they didn't. They stood their ground. Let them know that they're not going to be pushed and pushed back. And I'm pretty proud of them, and that was I felt it was the right thing to do. Blood got shed, but it was the right thing to do.
I am just so thankful, and I mean this, caller, that there were not shots fired or anyone that was seriously hurt. I was scared there for a while last week, and it's not over. It's not over by any stretch of the imagination. And with all these new findings coming out, I think it's going to get a lot dirtier and a lot uglier as to really the whole basics of the story. But I do appreciate your call, and have a great week, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You too.
All right, sir. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to have my opinion. I knew when I heard anything about Nevada that old Harry Reid was in it. He is so crooked, he can't even stand up straight.
But my fear, Helen, is this, and I think you probably will agree with me. My fear is that this story will be pushed under the carpet. This story will be whitewashed by the other media, and the folks will not know the involvement of Harry Reid's son, Rory. They will not know of Chinese energy giant ENN wanting to build a huge solar plant there. They will not know of the county commissioner that was the chairman and was a big supporter of Harry Reid. They will not know all of these facts and figures, and the story will die on the vine.
Right on. Right on. That's just the way it always is, until we can clean up that mess back there in Washington.
Amen. And I appreciate your call. You and Dal, take care. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Folks, think about this. And I know, again, I'm not taking sides on this. Even though I know the Bundy family, I'm not going to take a side on this. I'm not going to advocate that somebody that's running cattle doesn't pay their bills. I'm not advocating that at all. But I am saying that there is so much more now to this story that we should be extremely concerned about. We should be I want to know why a Chinese company. Last time I looked out on my garage, I've got a red, white, and blue flag for the United States of America, not China. I don't want them coming in here and buying up our land. I don't want them coming in here and establishing another portion of their absolute huge conglomerate, an energy company, ENN. Why? Why the Chinese? Why not an American company? Why not help them? If we're going to get into this idiocy of solar, why not help an American company? Why not get the money for them and their involvement? Why China? And why Harry Reid's son? And why the county commissioners doing what they did with the land? And why the cover-up on the moving the desert tortoises into another area and euthanizing many of them? These are a lot of questions that deserve to be answered. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Talk to me, caller. I have limited time. Go.
Sam?
Yes.
one thing that the BLM was 100,000% wrong is on that First Amendment corral, if you want to call it a corral.
I agree.
You remember when they had that taped off with tape, with yellow tape, and it's the First Amendment area?
Yes.
Now that's a bunch of, I'll tell you right there.
Anywhere in this country is a First Amendment corral, if you will. It might be here in my studio. It might be out in the middle of Highway 30. It might be over in Cottonwood. It might be anywhere. Nobody is going to tell me that I have to go to a designated area to exercise my free speech.
Boy, now that just burned my bacon there, but just like you just said, I'll get out the air, but just like you just said, the whole United States of America is the First Amendment area.
That's exactly right, and I'm glad you pointed that out this morning. Thank you for your call.
All right.
God bless. Thank you. I've got to do a weather update, and then I'll take some more calls. Folks, you ought to be outraged over this. When you hear a story like this that basically has so much cause and effect as to what's going on in this country, and the sleaziness of involvement of money under the table, graft, and corruption, you ought to be outraged. And we ought to find out why the media is so milquetoast and buckle-kneed that they won't carry these stories. Goes right to the White House. A little bit now with Michael Rogers, Weather.com, brought to you this hour by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center at 382 North Overland in Burley. Minor emergencies, major care. They treat everything from ear infections all the way to strains and sprains and breaks and headaches. You name it, they're there to serve you. That's right, the doctor will see you now, not in 4 or 5 days. They specialize in minor emergencies and provide major care. Nice people, great people. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley, 678-6996. Here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Well, hello, everyone. Michael Rogers, MichaelRogersWeather.com. Yeah, it's going to be sunny. Yeah, it's going to be nice. Yeah, our high today is going to be 66. 67 is a pretty good number. Overnight lows are not going to be the same. Going to start out a brand new day with a brand spanking new week of you, me, and weather. Now, you're going to have some wind on Tuesday. That wind condition, like 25, 35, gusting to 40, that'll take place. Wednesday's not going to be bad, but there's no major storms, no watches, no warnings. Just basically start out April on a Monday with Zeb at the Ranch. There you go. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you very much. Michael Rogers, Weather.com, brought to you this hour by our friends at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. Yes, sirree. Minor emergencies, major care. 382 North Overland in Burley. I don't even know what else to say. Other than when I listened to Sharyl Attkisson the other night on an interview, and then I got the story by Brendan Bordelon with the Daily Caller about how the very aggressive campaign from the Obama administration to have a chilling effect on journalists. This isn't Venezuela. This isn't Bolivia. This isn't Iran. This isn't Afghanistan. This is America. And this administration is, quote unquote, very well organized and designed to have some sort of a chilling effect on the media and basically call them up and say, well, I don't think you should carry that story. I don't think that you should have that story on the 6 o'clock news. I think you better rethink it. Modifying stories, changing stories because they might not be Obama administration friendly. This ought to scare you to death in this country. Any moment they could pull the plug, whether it's on Hannity or whether it's on O'Reilly or whether it's on me, because they don't like the content of our criticism of the Obama administration. And then when you have stories like this involving Speaker of the majority Speaker of the Senate, and that is Harry Reid, and the power that the man has and has had, and his son Rory, a attorney in Las Vegas representing a very high-powered law firm. And then you start talking about energy giant ENN from China that wants to use that federal land where the cattle are to build a $5 billion solar farm. and you find out that the desert tortoise is being killed and or moved to another area. Well, we got to get rid of them here. Yeah, they might be an endangered species, but they'll really croak if we put up a solar plant. And then you find out about a commissioner that absolutely was a former Reed henchman, if you will, and policy advisor, and money under the table. Aren't you at all questioning what's going on in the media? And it would be interesting to see and hear. For those of you that watch NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, whatever, if this story comes out on any of that media. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I don't trust him. I don't trust him as far as I could pick this house up and throw it across Highway 30. No way do I trust these people. Don't forget again, Home Comfort Systems from Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our dear friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, everything you need at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Jeb. You can see what's going on, or I can. It's a back way to go through so they can get away with that public domain.
Mm-hmm.
Because that don't work for them, so they're going through the back door, stabbing everybody in the back. And Harry Reid is our biggest problem for nothing getting done in the United States.
Al, let me ask you, and nobody's as red, white, and blue as you are. What about China? I mean, doesn't this just wrinkle your skin to think that China is the one that they're dealing with right here on our American soil for a huge solar company?
Well, that's because they'll get more money because they use slave labor instead of American labor. That's easy to see.
Yeah, but Al, I mean, this just stinks. This whole story would not have come out had it not been for the conflagration with the Bundy family and their grazing and everything. But then also the hypocrisy of the environmentalists and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service with their so-called Endangered Species Act and we'll move the tortoises over here out of that area, under the table. Nobody will know. And, oh, by the way, there's too many of them. We'll kill some of them. Al, this is lunacy.
I know it, but that's what you get when you got a Harry Reid in there because we haven't had anything done because of his obstruction of justice and that. He should be sitting in jail for that $1 million deal he had on land deal in Nevada, but yet they covered it up. If it had been a Republican or independent, they'd be sitting in jail.
I can't argue that. I cannot argue that. And then this report by Sharyl Attkisson that's coming out and making waves in the media against the White House. This is spooky, Al, that we have that kind of an administration with that much power.
I know what I wish they'd hire somebody like her instead of Juan Williams on Fox.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
No argument here. Thanks, Al. God bless. Have a good day.
Have a good one.
You know, folks, honestly, this is not theatrics. This is real stuff going on right now. And real questions need to be answered. I mean, about the cronyism, the under-the-table money, really what's going on with that land down there, really what's happening with this Chinese company, really what's happening with people that worked for in the past Harry Reid that are getting special favors, one of which was even convicted in May of 2013 of making illegal campaign contributions. Wow. This is really something. Don't forget the Great Big Spring Tire Sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, boy, they don't care what you're driving, cars, pickups, SUVs, pulling your horse trailer, your boat trailer. If you need tires, now's the time to check them out with the Big Spring Tire Sale. And they've got all their tires on sale waiting for you. 7 locations serving you of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And don't forget, too, they've got custom wheels on sale. They've got the very best in brake service. Hey, buddy, I'm telling you. And front end alignment, shocks and struts, all of this. And credit is easy. 4 different plans are available at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. With Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline, and Randy on Overland and Burley, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
this thing about money and some of the things that go on, I got involved with BLM locally concerning China Mountain and the wind farm out there. And one day I said, how are you going to get around the Native Americans and the things that they have in that area? And I was told by BLM that it would be settled with the Native Americans, and that's when I learned that money buys anything, because that's what happened. The price went up to the Native Americans, and there was an agreement made. But it's money that drives everything.
Absolutely. And adding to that, political gain. I will be talking to you in about an hour or so God bless you. I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, money and political gain. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir, Tony, quickly.
There's only one solution to this problem that I can see. It's going to have to get thousands and thousands of people to start hounding their senators and let them know if they don't get the job done, they're going to be out of a job. And the next thing to do, if you have to, get enough people together to picket these newspapers that aren't telling the truth.
Well, it's not just the newspapers, it's the media in general in this entire country that seems to have no backbone, and they've got buckle knees to the point where they won't do anything to hurt this Obama administration. This program, the day that I don't carry stories like this, is the day I pull the plug on myself, because I'm going to tell the public the way it is.
Well, I understand that the BLM actually had snipers up in the hills up there. Isn't that nice?
Well, there's so many things about this story that were scary. There's so many things that were incendiary that could have caused the loss of human life that I'm glad in one respect that they've pulled back, cooler minds prevailed. But one thing that worries me, Tony, is that absolutely this story's not over yet. I got to run to the news, my friend. God bless you and Mary. Okay. Have a good day.
Talk to you later.
Thank
Bye.
you. We all should be outraged. We all should be asking questions. And we all should be getting answers by a news media that is perceptive enough to know that this is a story that needs answers, and they go after them. Not run by a bunch of cowards and people that are swayed by the Obama administration to back off and shut up. I won't. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to send it over to ABC News. Probably won't hear anything about this on the news. I'd be interested if we did. Let me know. I'll see you in 6. Well, it looks nice outside right now. My goodness, blue sky, sunshine. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell. Welcome back to Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsors, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers, excuse me, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Absolutely. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Those 4 words sum it up the best. Always at your disposal. Taking care of your garbage. And don't forget, along with being on the route service, they've got the Go Minis portable storage units. Those are really handy for everybody if you got a lot of stuff like I do. And then also, it's summertime, and be thinking about summer and spring rentals of restrooms and porta potties for all your outdoor events. They've got all of it, and they can help you. Western Waste Services, 734-6969, always at your disposal. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to also remind you about our friends at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with our dear friend Joel Heward, owner-manager. You know, Hanson Mortuary, is a family place. Family lives there. They have very flexible hours. They're there when you need them. And you'll get the attention of the family. And by the way, they can travel to rural towns and churches, and they can help you with your arrangements. You don't have to go to them. They'll come right there to you. That's what makes them so special. That's what makes them so helpful. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Please call them. 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, serving you. It is Monday, and I have been really waiting to get this man on my program this morning because I heard a report that just drove me right up the wall and across the ceiling the other day. Good morning, Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. And, you know, these days, these reports, these things that are occurring in our country should drive just about everyone up the wall and across the ceiling. And I stand with you, and I commiserate with you, and I commiserate with everyone listening, because as you notice, the news gets crazier by the day. It becomes more obscene on so many different levels. I mean, when I was a kid, you could count on yes and no, right and wrong, up and down. You felt that your country was being led by moral and ethical leaders. You felt that your country was serving your interests because it was a representative government, because it really was a government that you elected these congressmen and senators and governors and so forth to do the bidding of your will as a constitutional republic citizen. And today, that's no longer true. We have a government that is being led by liars, a president right now who has absolutely lied, is lying. Even the past president, the same thing as far as weapons of mass destruction and the need to go into Iraq, etc. So yeah, it's very, very frustrating on so many levels, and I stand with you in that frustration, and boy, I don't know how to answer it.
Well, you know, okay, Frosty, I deal in the fact that I have some great news agencies and a lot of friends back in Washington and New York, of whom I have given you some of their information, and it's helped you, if you'll recall, with the Daily Caller, as a matter of fact. And when I listen to a woman like former CBS reporter Sharyl Attkisson come right out, and she is the one that left CBS News because of the Obama administration aggressively trying to change stories that were not in favor of the Obama administration. I mean, we're talking about Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. We're talking about Bolivia. We're talking about Iran and Afghanistan. We're talking about where they're trying to cover up the media and make it so it's a one-source-fits-all. I'm scared about what's happening.
Well, I am too, and really, Benghazi may be the flashpoint for me, because Benghazi was pure corruption on Barack Obama's part.
Absolutely.
Pure lying on Barack Obama's part, pure cover-up on Barack Obama's part. So we have a president who is corrupt, he is a liar, he has hidden his past, and he is not steering the ship of state competently, or with any sense of direction. He doesn't have any understanding of what is America and how we want our country to move forward. He doesn't have a plan. He's simply coasting up there in the White House, waking up every morning with no idea of where the United States is moving, other than he's just letting it adrift. And that's what I see as a citizen watching this thing for the last 5 years now, and that should be frightening for all of us.
Frosty, I'm telling you, there's so many stories, and I really applaud you for almost taking away my front lines this morning of introduction to you. You said what I was going to say to you. I am absolutely, I'm getting nervous. I'm getting, and I'll use the word afraid, and I'm getting very, very watchful of every single story that comes down the pike because of the changes. And here's what Sharyl Attkisson wrote about the government with Obama. She said, including phone calls and emails, the Obama administration is pressuring the news medias to change or retract the stories. Frosty, this is the United States of America.
And therein, we must be vigilant. We must be calling our House reps and our senators and our governors and our newspapers and certainly the media, whether it's CNN or Fox or all of them, because what's going on right now is an obfuscation of reality. I don't care whether you call it reverse racism or you call it affirmative action in the presidency itself. We are seeing corruption and lies permeate the Congress and certainly permeate the presidency to the point where there's no chance or any way that you can trust anything that the White House comes out with anymore. And somebody like Sharyl Attkisson, who really grew a spine, if you will, she's just telling you exactly what she discovered. And let's face it, you and I have already discovered this, and we discovered it 5 years ago. And, of course, we really got blanketed with a whole bunch of names and all that goes with that. But everything that we talked about is coming to fruition, is now in process, and the American people are literally the victims. And we're going to get to be even greater victims, again, as that House Representatives, if it passes, the 744 bill, which gives amnesty to 20 million illegal alien migrants, along with adding immigration, not just 1.1 million per year, but from 1.1 million per year to 2 million per year. This country is not going to survive this. And it's amazing to me that no one is speaking up about it, Zeb.
Frosty, we've been on this program for a long time together, and you and I don't agree on every subject, which is a good thing, so we can have a good, friendly debate. But when you watch and listen to this administration right now, they are playing the race card. Obama, Eric Holder, Al Sharpton, Charlie Rangel, Elijah Cummings, right on down the list, blacks that are playing the race card. Let me just say this. They have been elected to office. One office, the highest in the land, President of the United States for Barack Obama. And they turn around and they're causing more division and more hate by calling racism in this country. I am absolutely appalled at these people.
Well, you got to start with Jeremiah Wright, the minister there in Chicago where Barack Obama went to church, purportedly, for the 20 years. And he just said, GD America. And here's a man who is, you know, if he just skedaddled his little butt back to a place like Zimbabwe or Zaire or any of the African nations like the Central African nation where there's just slaughter going on right now, for anybody of you who watch that, the slaughter of the Central African nation, there's 4 million in that country, and they're hacking each other up. The Muslims are hacking up the Christians are fighting back as best they can. If Jeremiah Wright was back in his own continental ghetto, if you would, that guy would be praying, thanking God that he is a minister in the United States of America, but instead enjoying all the food and all the housing and all the ability to speak and say whatever he wants. He spews hatred for his own country, spews hatred for white people, essentially, and that's where Barack Obama went to church for all those years. And so you have to wonder what really is going on in our country. And, of course, as I've said, ladies and gentlemen, we are being fractured and fragmented by mass immigration, by endless and countless millions of people pouring into our country that have no concept, no understanding, no appreciation for the U.S. Constitution, for the American way of life, for the opportunities they enjoy, and simply just for the free speech. We have millions pouring into this country right now that would love to have Sharia law implemented into our Constitution, literally implemented into our country so that they could censor our free speech, censor our women's rights, censor our choices. And that's what's going on right now. And I'll tell you what, it's only going to get worse if we don't stop mass immigration into our country, because we're just going to continue to fracture, and you're going to see more of the fragmentation, whether it's from the White House down or whether it's the cities up. We're going to see more and more of that.
You have made me a convert to everything you've said, 100%. But now, if I didn't get this next story in and ask you this question, I would not be doing my job, and I'd feel feel bad for the rest of the week. What in the world was the report coming out of Denver, Colorado, just down the road from you, my dear friend, that Denver school systems have hired illegal aliens as teachers in the school system when we have so many qualified veterans coming back from the war that are teachers, they've got a teacher certificate, and they're not being hired? What in the world is Denver doing?
Well, that was just on the news this morning. In fact, my friend Tom Tancredo, who's running for governor against John Hickenlooper, stated, what has happened to our country and the rule of law? And so the fact is, the rule of law no longer applies because there's so much money being paid off by Marriott hotels, by Hormel Foods, by Tyson Chicken, by McDonald's, by Chipotle's, and all of these different fast food organizations that get all this illegal cheap labor from Mexico and other countries. And so much so now that we have our schools are turning into Spanish schools with so many Spanish children. And, of course, they all eat free breakfasts, which you and I pay for, free lunches, which you and I pay for, ESL courses, which they ignore anyway. English is a second language. And now we are literally, the Denver public schools are so overflooded with Mexicans that speak nothing but Spanish and have their parents are literally, essentially illiterate in their own language, let alone ours, that the only way to communicate to these children, because we're forced to educate them, is to have someone that can speak Spanish. And guess what? In Denver, Colorado, they are attempting to, and they're moving forward with hiring illegal aliens that are in the country illegally with no qualifications to be teachers other than they can speak Spanish, to be hired and in place of American teachers and American students and American fully qualified teachers, completely displacing them. We're talking about a form of insanity, but that's what Democrats are doing, and because the Democrats own the House and the Senate of Colorado State House here, and of course we have a Denver public schools are run by a Democrat, and the mayor Michael what's his name, Hancock, he's a Democrat, and of course John Hickenlooper, who, by the way, was hiring illegal aliens before he was mayor of Denver, and he was hiring illegal aliens before he was he was in his Cherry Cricket restaurants and so forth. I mean, it just goes back. So what you're seeing is, and I've said this before, corruption is a mechanism by which third world countries operate. You now have Colorado becoming a third world country because corruption is the mainstay on how it operates.
You know, Frosty, I'm sitting here in my studio, and you've been in my studio, and I'm just shaking my head as to the insanity of what's going on in this country. I mean, we've got absolute under-the-table corruption with Harry Reid and his son Rory over a land deal in Nevada with possibly the Chinese coming in with their biggest power company in solar. Then we have all the graft and corruption in the administration, with whether it's Fast and Furious or whether it's the Benghazi or whether it's the IRS or Obama himself. I mean, and then we're talking about having illegal aliens teaching in our public school system. I'm sitting here scratching my head. What in the living heck is the matter with America?
Well, I'll tell you another thing that's going to frighten you. Chinese are they're literally buying corporations in this country with the $1.4 trillion that we owe them in trade deficits that we've built up over the years. We owe Chinese. They've got money. They're flush with money, and they're buying up companies in America. They're literally going to take over construction firms, and they get to hire whomever they want and bring in their own personnel. But also, you have to understand, even the Muslims in this country are starting to build up madrasas and schools just for their children outside of the American way and the American teaching system. So again, as I've said in my book, Immigration's Unarmed Invasion, Deadly Consequences, and as I've said many times before, there will be a point where these cultures and these languages and these immigrants are going to demand they have their own laws, their own cultures, their own languages completely mandated in our own country, and that we will be literally trying to maintain ourselves as a culture and a language, but we're going to fail ultimately if we don't stop mass immigration. And as I say each week, CAPSWEB.org, capsweb.org will empower you, numbersusa.org, and of course FAIRUS.org. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be in the fight of our lives to maintain our country and to be able to sustain our culture and language. And right now, we could really very well have lost it. But I think we can still regain ourselves if we stop mass immigration and reduce it to less than 100,000 per year. We may have a chance. If not, and if 744 passes, I don't think our future generations stand a chance whatsoever.
Well, there's another caveat to the story you're talking about, the Muslims and everything else. And I've been following Sergeant, I got to get his name here right, Alonzo Lunsford. Now, that gentleman, you might not remember the name, but he was shot 7 times. 7 times he was shot at Fort Hood by Muslim killer and terrorist Nidal Hassan. Now, this man is healed up. He's still in the service, and he has asked for an audience with Obama to discuss why the Fort Hood victims were not members of a terrorist killing, because that was just called a workplace violence and they didn't get the benefits, etc. And the White House refused to give him an audience and turned him away.
Well, let me really make this clear, ladies and gentlemen. Notice that no one speaks about who the marathon bombers were. No one speaks of that. You're seeing the whole Muslim name, the whole Islamic name. You're seeing, I mean, Barack Obama right now has been associated with the Muslim Brotherhood for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, our president has been associated with Muslims for decades. He was brought up in Indonesia, for God's sakes, with Muslims. Do you think that hasn't marked his brain? Do you think that hasn't made a difference in the things that he's doing in the White House? This is the first American president who is not an American. You're hearing me on this, Seb?
I'm listening.
Barack Obama is the first American president who is not an American. Whether it's physically not an American or emotionally not an American or religiously not an American. And I'm sorry, a Muslim really isn't an American. They cannot and do not accept the U.S. Constitution. They only accept Islamic Sharia law. That's what Muslims do. And so here we now have an American president who is not an American, and I'll stand on that, and history will prove me right, because this president is not serving America and or Americans.
And here's the thing, too, and I've only got a minute left, Frosty, but we've got on this program, and the idiots out in the audience that are of the liberal left, the Democrats in this state especially, called us racist. Now, at the same time that we're criticizing Obama, at the same time that I've criticized not only Obama, but Eric Holder and Charlie Rangel and all the people I've mentioned, Elijah Cummings, yes, they are black, but at the same time, I have praised and beckoned that they come to the forefront and try to help lead this country. Dr. Benjamin Carson, Condoleezza Rice, Alan West. How in the world can I be called a racist when I'm supporting them, but I, of course, come out against Obama? Naturally, I have to be called a racist.
Well, again, when the opposition has no logical argument, has no logical context, has no appreciation for the facts as they stand, then the only thing that they can hurl are names. Racist, xenophobe, and so forth. I'm so far past that. I mean, I have 3 of my dearest friends. This is no kidding. 3 of my dearest friends, all of them African Americans. One of the preachers at my church is African American. I just gave her a hug this last weekend because she was so fabulous. And then I have long-term 20-year friends who are Hispanic, over 20. And I guarantee you, if anyone called me a racist in their presence, my dear friends would go up to them and say, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my friends, Reg, he's so big, he'd probably pop him in the mouth. Well, I don't know. He'd get in their face. I know that. I'm sorry. This is not about racism.
That's right.
What we deal with and what we're talking about is the U.S. Constitution, the rule of law, Either we're enforcing the rule of law or we're not. Either we are a constitutional republic and we all have the right to speak as we speak, or we don't. And so racism or any other name-calling has nothing to do with what you and I are talking about. We're talking about the rule of law, not the rule of men. And that's why they're scared of people like us, because we stand up and we speak out just like Thomas Jefferson and just like Ben Franklin and John Adams and the rest of those great men. They spoke out, and by gosh, I'm going to speak out right alongside of them because I'm proud to be with those men of history.
Absolutely. You know, this morning I'm just outraged. I got to wrap things up. I'm outraged, and I'm so glad to have you on this morning because I want to wake up the listening audience, because all that glitters is not gold unless it's going into somebody in this this political party's pocket. And this is what makes me so afraid right now, that they're buying their administration. They're buying the media, and they're buying their future. Frosty, God bless you for being on the air this morning. I thank you so much.
And God bless you. And ladies and gentlemen, again, those websites that I give out each week, join, empower yourself. Otherwise, we will become victims, and our country will no longer be America. It's just going to be a polyglot, a multicultural quagmire that's already taking over Europe, and we are really next in line.
Amen.
And we must stop it, and it's only because of your actions at the individual level, collectively empowered by joining these organizations. And Zeb, thank you for speaking up, and I'm going to stand with you all the way through.
Yeah, it's my friend Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado, a true friend. Thank you very much. Talk to you next Monday. Ladies and gentlemen, Frosty Woldridge, and he'll be on next week at 9:06. Whipple's Book Plaza. Oh, man, I tell you, folks, have you been into Whipple's Book Plaza, 222 West 11th Street in Burley? Well, they have it all. I mean, they've got all the books. Literally, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of books they've got. They've got them all over the place. And they've got everything for your Happy Easter gift giving right there at Whipple's Book Plaza. All your Bibles. They've got all your Easter coloring books. They've got everything. The Book Plaza does have it all. A great place to go shop for your gift giving. And it's also the home of the National Pioneer Hall of Fame with our dear friend Colonel Dale Whipple. Whipple's Book Plaza, 222 West 11th Street in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Also, I'm very, very serious about this. Do not put this on the back burner. Take care of it today. Your insurance, your life insurance, your health insurance, your retirement planning, your employee benefits. A lot of people say, well, I'll take care of it next week. Or maybe next month the wife and I will check it out. No, please don't wait. I've seen too many stories go sour because they didn't take care of those necessities of life. Please give them a call, 436-4424. Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, 436-4424. In just a few moments, we're going to have our weekly Alliance Defending Freedom report with Matt Sharp. Stand by, but I also want to remind you, too, about all the furniture, all the carpeting, all the mattresses, all the bedroom sets, all the recliners, everything for your home beautification and comfort at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. It doesn't get any better than this. They have got the professionals in there that can really help you. They've got a wide array of everything you're looking for, whether it's recliners, whether it's sofas, whether it's accessories, whether it's carpeting, whether it's bedroom sets, and all the mattresses. Please stop in and talk to the professionals at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. I've been looking forward to this interview for the last couple of days, and we say good morning to Matt Sharp with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Very good. How are you doing this morning, Zeb?
Well, Matt, I got to tell you, and let me preface a little bit about what we're going to talk about. Day by day, I am seeing stories, and I'm up on top of the news with every news media outlet. I get everything sent into my studio. And I am outraged that the American public is letting this happen, especially Christians, and we're supposedly still about 80% plus Christian in this country. But Jesus, the name of Jesus, is being downtrodden and thrown out the back door, and nobody seems to care. And that's what you're going to talk to us about this morning.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the irony of all of this is we've got a student that was wanting to hand out a Valentine's card that had the Bible verse John 3:16 in it, And you talk about irony. He's trying to do it in the Bethlehem area of Pennsylvania in the Nazareth area school district. And Jesus isn't allowed in Bethlehem or Nazareth? Is this really where we're at now?
I am incensed because every single day we hear, well, you can't say Jesus, well, you can't mention the Lord, you can't mention God, and here is something so absolutely innocent with St. Valentine's Day card. I want you to elaborate a little bit more on the story.
Yeah. So our client here is a first grader at a school district in Nazareth area school district in Pennsylvania. And his class was having a Valentine's party. Now, first off, political correct school, they don't call it Valentine's anymore. It's Friendship Day. So St. Valentine's might offend somebody. So he and his family get together and say, we want to do something unique. So they made these little notes that talked about St. Valentine and who he is, and that he was a Christian who was persecuted for sharing his faith, for spreading the message of God's love. And they basically said, we want to let you know on this Valentine's Day that God loves you. And then they quoted John 3:16. So the student wraps this up, puts it in a Valentine's card, and takes it to school to hand out with him, and gives a copy of the card to his teacher, gives a Valentine's to his teacher to celebrate the day. And his teacher sees the note in it, takes it to the principal. One thing leads to another, and all of those notes are removed out of the student's Valentine card, and he's left only with giving a blank Valentine's to his classmates. Why? Because they saw the card and said, this is religious, it's not allowed in our school, the use and reference to John 3:16, the quoting a Bible verse is not allowed in our schools, and you're not allowed to hand that out anymore. So here's this first grader just wanting to talk about who St. Valentine is, and a message of God's love, and he's censored and discriminated against because the school doesn't want the name of Jesus mentioned in their buildings.
What do we do? Matt, I'm beyond upset about these kinds of stories. I'm beyond upset about people trying to tell me on my program I shouldn't or couldn't wish God bless, have a good day when I say goodbye to people. I've done it to you on this program. Every single time you've been on the show and finished it up, I've said God bless, have a good day. I am not going to kowtow to these people. I am not going to bend, but why is our country throwing Jesus completely out the back door? Have we lost our spine?
Yeah, it's just this outright hostility that we're seeing more and more against religion, against Christianity in particular. We see it pop up around Christmas of, you can't say Merry Christmas and all of this stuff. And then now to reach the point where Valentine's Day, that's named after St. Valentine, one, you can't call it St. Valentine's Day anymore. You got to call it Friendship Day. And two, to actually talk about the person behind the holiday, a Christian that was persecuted for his faith, and now here's this first grader being persecuted for his faith for talking about it. It's insane that we're coming to this nonsense where everything has to be scrubbed of any mention of religion. And that's why, I'm so proud of this family for taking a stand on this. So many people, it's easy to roll over and say, well, what's the big deal? It's just a Valentine. Because this Valentine represents something bigger that's going on in our culture. It represents this complete censorship of anything Christian, any references to God and the Bible in every aspect of our life. And if a first grader can't bring a Valentine to school that says, Happy Valentine, God loves you, here's John 3:16, what's next? I'm so proud of the family for taking a stand on this, but we do need more Christians to stand up and call out this nonsense that's going on every day across our country.
Let me ask you a couple of questions here, Matt. First of all, were the Valentines in a sealed envelope?
No, they were just kind of folded in half. He had gone around and placed them. Each of the schools made a kind of a tissue box, and they decorated for Friendship Day, since we got to call it out, for St. Valentine's Day. And he goes around and puts it in the box. And so the school officials that night actually went through each of the boxes, took out the Valentines, removed his note, and then stuffed them back in there blank without anything in them anymore.
Well, the reason I asked is, had they been in a sealed envelope addressed to Johnny and Susie and Billy and Mary and all the other kids, and had the administration gone into those sealed envelopes and destroyed them, wouldn't that have been basically a huge case against the school, even more so than what it is now, because they destroyed private property?
Yeah, well, they still did here. I mean, they confiscated those notes that he and his family had spent a lot of time and effort making. that was what really upset the student about this. I mean, here's a first grader. They had just moved to this school district. He's trying to make some new friends, get to know everybody, and he thinks, hey, I think a great way would be tell them about who I am, tell them about Valentine's, give them something on St. Valentine's Day. And so he puts all of this effort. He and his parents write out the cards. He hand signs all of the cards and the notes, folds them up, puts them in there, and all of his hard work and effort just to share his message of God's love, it's confiscated and destroyed by school officials. And this is outrageous. And this is a student that is just wanting to share his faith with others. And he told his parents after this that even they had asked him, "Are you saying your prayers at, over your meals at lunch?" And he responds, "Well, I'm afraid to, Mom and Dad, because I got in trouble for my Valentine's, and I'm afraid they're going to yell at me for saying a prayer over my meal." This is the impact this stuff has on kids. When they're sent the message that their faith isn't welcome at school, it's not just about a card. Now, every time their faith comes up, everything that they feel led to do as a Christian, now they start questioning it and doubting it. Do I need to not pray over meals? Should I not talk to my friend about their faith? Should I not hand out this? Should I not do that? All because of acts like this where school officials target Christianity for censorship. And this is the impact it has on students. And it's going to be something that if this student and his family don't stand up for this, and it's going to follow that student the rest of his life, and other students in the district subject to this as well.
You bring up such an excellent point right there, Matt, and I want to elaborate on that a little bit. We're seeing it in the schools, the animus against God and Jesus Christ as our Savior. We're seeing Christians being absolutely relegated to being second and third class citizens if you believe we're being mocked and everything else. We're seeing Christ pushed out of everything. We're seeing religion, Christianity, basically trying to be snuffed out in our everyday life, and especially on Sundays of going to church to worship. We're seeing people be afraid like this perhaps first grader to practice their faith and their belief because of school systems. What do we do to fight back?
Yeah, we got to push back hard. I think we need Christians to stop sitting on the sidelines and get in the game. They need to be running for board positions. We need school boards that have Christians on them that are going to look at this nonsense and say, this ain't going to happen in my school. No way is a Christian going to be targeted for censorship at my school. We need Christians to get into education, to be teachers and principals and superintendents. It's not enough just for us to stand on the outside and say, oh, well, that's a shame that happened. We got to get in the game. We've got to change these institutions, and it only happens with Christians rolling up their sleeve, getting involved in the public schools, getting involved in the PTA, getting to know what's going on, because that's the really only way that we can ultimately take back our schools. We can file all of these lawsuits, and we're going to continue to do them. Every time situations like this come up, we're going to fight them, we're going to come hard against them, and we're going to defend these constitutional rights. But at the end of the day, we got to take back these schools. We've got to take back these institutions. And it's at public schools, it's at universities, it's at every area that Christians have unfortunately just kind of stepped back and said, well, we're just not going to get involved in that. It's time for us to do them and take them back.
The Son of God, Jesus Christ, you can't have a picture showing out his form and picture that many of us have. I have two of them hanging on my wall right here in my office. My grade school, where I went to school, had a picture of Jesus hanging on the back wall, along with our great flag of the United States of America. Today, everything is being so that you can't even mention the name Jesus. And I will say this, Matt, that I honestly believe the inner cities and kids that are from a far, far greater secular society than ever before, many of them have no idea what the name Jesus Christ is or what it means.
Yeah, I completely agree. We've got a society that is completely ignorant of the Bible, of even basic Bible stories. How many kids now are going to think that the movie Noah that just came out, that's really what happened in the Bible? Because they're ignorant about it. They've never read the stories. And, years ago, the Supreme Court said schools can teach about the Bible. They can read these stories, that part of in teaching students about our Western culture and civilization is that they need to have a basic understanding of the Bible. But schools have thrown that out and not only just stopped teaching it, but now become hostile to it. And so we're getting a generation of students growing up that's ignorant to this. And that's why more than ever that we need brave students, showing up at school, talking about their faith, giving out copies of the Bible, Bible clubs getting started up, school boards getting Bible back into the curriculum that the Supreme Court said is entirely constitutional. We need that more and more, because otherwise we're going to have a society completely ignorant of Christianity, of its importance in our culture and our civilization, why our founding fathers found those principles so important. And if we forget all of that and we lose all of that, I think we're going to lose that foundation of our democracy and our freedom.
It's going to take, honestly, this is what it's going to take. It's going to take Joe and Mary, common citizen, to stand up and say enough is enough. No more turning the other cheek. I've only got two, and they've been turned twice, and that's it, buddy. You're over. It's going to take all of us to stand up for what's right in this country, and I absolutely this morning want to stress the fact that if we don't, we're going to lose the basis of all of our Judeo-Christian ethics that this country was founded on.
Absolutely. You look back to our founding fathers, that's what happened. You know, they said enough is enough. We're tired of what the British are doing, restricting our rights, restricting this, restricting that. And they stood up and said enough is enough. And that's what it took. And that's what our country was founded upon, was brave citizens, just ordinary average Joes and Janes standing up and saying, we're tired of this. Their government is exceeding its bounds, and we're not going to take it anymore. And I think that's what Christians have to do. Again, I'm not saying we ought to take up arms against the government, but I think we've still got a chance to really turn things around. But it's going to take moms and dads and kids and grandparents and everybody rolling up their sleeves and saying enough is enough. We want to take our country back. We're going to get involved in these institutions and bring them back to what they ought to be. Make sure that our kids are getting the proper education, and part of which includes a understanding of Judeo-Christian values and these principles that underlie our democracy and our freedom. We've got to do it, though, and it starts with cases like this, with a mom and dad standing up and saying, no way is this school going to censor our kid, because if they're doing it to our kid, they're doing it to other kids, and maybe those other kids' parents won't stand up, but we're going to, and we're going to say enough is enough, and we're going to strike down this school policy, and we're going to have a court declare that the school was wrong to do what it did.
Well, you know, and I don't want to get off on another tangent here, Matt, but I've got to have you also just quickly mention that this isn't just a sole case unto itself. We're seeing other cases, like in Michigan, where a Muslim man was offended because the school was going to have an Easter egg hunt, even though they didn't use the word Easter, they just mentioned egg, and he got all upset, and basically one person with a complaint tried to stop it and possibly will. Mention that, too. I mean, no matter what happens with something associated with Christianity, we've got all the naysayers saying we have to crawl in the hole and pull the rock in after us.
Absolutely. You know, it's this thing that even the Michigan situation you talked about, a flyer going home, a church was sponsoring the whole Easter egg hunt. Even that very act of, oh, we've received a flyer that mentions an egg hunt, we're offended by that, and we must shut that down. That is contrary to every value that America stands for. We don't live in a country where just because you're offended or don't like something, it gives you the power to censor it. To the contrary, our founding fathers said, you know what, there's going to be things that offend you, but we believe freedom of speech is so important. We believe freedom of religion is so important that we want that in our country. We want a society where all of the ideas are welcome, where all of the speech, even if you don't like it and even if you're offended by it, is welcome here. And so we need people to stand up and call out nonsense like that and say, you know what? You don't like the egg hunt flyer? You crumple it up and you throw it away. That's what big boys and girls do. They don't throw a fit about it. They don't declare and cry out for censorship of it. They just ignore it. And that's what you do with speech you don't like. But we protect the people that are saying it, and we protect their right to say it, because as long as they've got the right to say it, then we've got the right to have our opposing views, and that's what democracy is built upon.
Absolutely. Matt, I really want you to keep up on this story or anything like this and come back in the near future and bring us up to speed. Matt Sharp, legal counsel with the Alliance Defending Freedom. And I mean this when I say it. God bless you and the ADF, and please come back soon.
Absolutely, and God bless you and your listeners, Deb.
And by the way, before I let you go, so they can follow this story and other stories, tell us how to follow ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom.
Visit our website, www.alliancedefendingfreedom.org. You can learn more about this case and other cases that are going on where we're standing up to defend Judeo-Christian values and the right of free speech and freedom of religion in our country.
All right. Matt Sharp, again, God bless. Thank you so much. I am riled up, and I'm not going to weaken on this. We need to stand up as Christians. Can you imagine the devastating effect that had on that little first grader that was sending out Valentines? And it was so innocuous and it was so pure. It was so pure that this little first grader was just sending blessings and hope and love to his fellow classmates and using John 3:16. And it was censored and thrown away. And what that does is send a chilling effect, a chilling and killing effect to our children and anybody else that, oh, if you practice your faith and believe in Jesus, why, we're going to get you. You can't do that. That's what it does and is happening in this country. I will not bend to that. You don't like what I say about religion and Christianity on this program? I don't care. That's my belief. Time for the weather, and it's brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. And don't forget, they have the best of guns, ammo, and accessories, and the best of the people that are very knowledgeable and can help you. Absolutely. 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Number to call, 733-3546. Red's Trading Post, serving you. And here now, Michael Rogers' weather.
Well, hello, everyone. Michael Rogers. MichaelRogersWeather.com. Yeah, it's going to be sunny. Yeah, it's going to be nice. Yeah, our high today is going to be 66. 67 is a pretty good number. Overnight lows are not going to be the same. Going to start out a brand new day with a brand spanking new week of you, me, and weather. Now, you're going to have some wind on Tuesday. That wind condition, like 25, 35, gusting to 40, that'll take place. Wednesday's not going to be bad, but there's no major storms, no watches, no warnings. Just basically start out April on a Monday with Zeb at the Ranch. There you go. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
I appreciate it. MichaelRogersWeather.com. And brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Oh, and by the way, real quick, I want to remind you about Let's Ride. They're closed today, but they're open Tuesdays through Saturdays. Oh, my goodness sakes, they're located on Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. And don't forget, April 22nd is the last day for the snow check on your snowmobiles. Oh, my goodness, you can choose your sled, choose your color, choose your options, and customize your particular snow machine to suit your riding style. You better believe it. Put a little money down, and it'll be made just the way you want it. Check it out before April 22nd. And don't forget, they've got all the new ATVs. Oh, my goodness, what a selection. And the Can-Am side-by-sides, it's all there where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 9 to 6. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, Gina, I've got just a couple of extra minutes here. And I wanted to get you on the program. We've talked about this in the past. But common sense and kind of the phrase I use at the end of the program, the way things were, the way things ought to be, every single day that's coming truer and truer.
And common sense is going by the wayside. Amen. More and more every day.
You know, as a mother of a 6-year-old son, and I, of course, my kids are grown up and I've got grandchildren, I am very concerned about a society that is trying to trash and throw away Christianity. I'm very upset at a society that would go through censorship and throw away some little first grader's Valentine's cards because on the inside, as a loving remembrance to his fellow students, he said John 3:16 and went through the Bible verse. I am very afraid as to the censorship that's happening with government to us. I'm not only afraid, but I'm outraged that we have let this happen.
Whatever happened to freedom of religion? Isn't that what our country was founded on?
It was, along with freedom of speech and our other freedoms that have been basically diminished and run over by a government that is way too powerful and needs a complete meltdown.
Yeah, we definitely need to reduce the size of our government. And I'm not sure exactly when all of this happened. How did government get so big, and how come this particular administration finds it so necessary to whittle away at our at the rights?
When I listened to and watched Sharyl Attkisson the other day, I could see the strain on her face. Did you happen to catch that interview?
No, I did not.
I did. I watched it in its entirety. And former CBS reporter Sharyl Attkisson, you could honestly see the worry and strain lines when she was talking about Obama's administration really taking part in a particularly aggressive and well-organized strategy designed to have a chilling effect on the American press. Those are her words, and she stands behind it.
And it is scary because you had mentioned that you were going to be interested as to whether any of the major networks were going to pick up on the story of the situation going down in Nevada. So I actually did a quick research. Not one.
I believe it. With Harry Reid and the Chinese firm and Harry Reid's son and the county commissioners and the BLM and the Desert Tortoise. This is something the American public needs to know, and they should be told honestly what's going on, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Local news outlets, i.e. Nevada local news outlets, are covering it. Not a lot of our local news outlets are, but when we're talking about major countrywide networks, no, not one of them, not even Fox.
We're going to take a call right now, and I'm outraged that this is happening. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, Deb. I've been listening to your last guest, and I had to call. The thing that really upsets me is we're not allowed, we're being censored to talk about our Heavenly Father, God the Father, and His Son, Jesus Christ. And yet, every day, it doesn't matter where I'm at, if it's in the grocery store, on the sidewalk, listening to a movie, watching a movie, the news, whatever. I hear so many people say, oh my G-O-D. Mm-hmm. For God's sake. Mm-hmm. See, I don't even say that in that term because that's so disrespectful to my Heavenly Father. And when are we going to censor them? Who is their God?
Their God.
And I am just so livid that they try to censor us using His name in respect, that they desecrate it.
Yeah.
Now, when are we going to quit putting up with that?
You know, you bring up
That's all I've got.
No, just stay on the air with me just a second, because you brought up an excellent point, and I really respect you for saying that. The more that we enhance a secular world and secular involvement to where they can come out and denigrate Jesus in the schools, they can come out and poke fun at Christians in the newspapers and on the media, they can absolutely be offended if they see a cross up on a church or if they see somebody praying on a football field. It's time that we turn things around and we became much more proactive. I said earlier, and I meant it, I will not turn my cheek ever again.
But they'll allow them to walk down the halls of the school and use the Lord's name in vain. That's what irritates me.
I totally agree with you.
You know, and it's usually those that are of more liberal mindset or, don't have a faith.
Right.
Or, I mean, I just like to know who is their God when they say that.
Well,
because they're talking probably about my God, and I don't appreciate it.
Thank you very much for sharing with us this morning, and it's people like you we need more of. Thank you so much. God bless you, and I mean that. Calls are welcome and appreciated. It's time to speak up, folks. Our whole society, the whole environment of our society is changing with a complexion of hate, with a complexion of secularism, and a complexion of we've got to do away with religion. That's what's happening out there. I, for one, am not going to stand for it. I will continue to do things the way I do them on this program. I will not be threatened. Don't forget our friends at Lennox with their home comfort systems, whether it's gas furnaces, air conditioners, or heat pumps, all of this and more with our dear friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call 678-0459. Once again, 678-0459. We're going to head for the news, but I want to tell you something real quick that I saw and witnessed this morning, and I'm going to try to get this gentleman on the program. His name is David Archibald, And he is a scientist, and along with many other scientists, he used them and their theories to write a book called The Twilight of Abundance. Now, keep that name in mind. I'm going to have him on the air. It's called The Twilight of Abundance. And this gentleman, along with his other scientist friends, have said that we are going into, and they were very definite about it, a global cooling stage that might be a 30-year ice age, and food, commodities, all crops are going to be extremely hard to grow because of a change in climatic conditions to an ice age. We'll tell you more about that a little bit later on, but I just want to tell you, be very aware, be very fearful of these people right now with the United Nations, our government with Obama and everybody else that keeps wanting to have global warming as a almost religion, when in essence a lot of scientists have jumped the fence and said, no. If anything, we're going to a global cooling. Somebody ought to write the op-ed editor, John Alexander at the Times News, and try to make him aware of what's really happening. He's really in the prehistoric ages. I'll be back in about 6. Don't go away. Oh, my. Sure looks nice outside. Wonder what Gina, what's the temperature over there at the studios? I'll take a look at mine real quick while you're checking it over there. What do we got?
I think it's about like 40-something degrees.
Oh my goodness. I got 36 right here.
Let's see what I have to bring it up, but let's see what it says. 37.9 degrees.
Oh my goodness, we're relatively close in being cold.
Yeah.
It's chilly out there. Hey, I'm Zeb Bell with Zeb at the Ranch, and of course we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, along with our dear friends as advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and also Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call Kelly and the crew at 734-6969. Before we have our guests come on the program, I also want to remind you, I met the owners of the Chadwick Sports Grill the other night. Nice people. They were over at the Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North speech. It was nice to meet them. Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, my goodness, what's the special for today? Hot brown chicken sandwich with choice of potato, veggies, and super salad. The food is always great. The atmosphere and the environment really interesting in there with all the sports memorabilia and everything. I love it. Service fantastic. You're going to love the Chadwick Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and say howdy today. Okay. Right now, let's go over to the telephones. And we're going to talk to the Institute for Energy Research Press Secretary, Mr. Chris Warren. Chris, how are you this morning? Nice to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me, Zeb. How you doing?
Well, not too bad. Really appreciate your coming on the show. I am shocked, and I'm really amazed that this administration, Obama, could delay, and continue to keep delaying a signature yay or nay on the Keystone Pipeline, and even the Democrats are finally starting to speak up and say, wait a minute, we need this. Everything's come through. It's okay. Environmentally, it's safe. What is going on with this president and his lack of putting his pen to the paper?
You're exactly right about that, and it's about time the Democrats finally get on board. There have been a few along the way who have been supportive of this project, but it really is a no-brainer of a project. We have thousands of miles of pipelines going throughout this country, throughout Canada as well. It's a safe transportation of oil and natural gas, and it really makes no sense that the president continues to delay over 2,000 days now, delay the construction and the permit approval for this pipeline.
Let me ask you this then, Chris. What would the pipeline do as far as what would it provide? What about the jobs? We've heard these stories 1,000 times, but what would it do to help consumers?
Sure. Well, as far as jobs go, there's been reports that the Obama administration's come out and said as little as 5 permanent jobs, and there's been reports that said as many as 40,000 jobs. Mm-hmm. It's going to be somewhere in between those, and it is a good chunk of that will be temporary jobs, but at the same time, it would create a lot of permanent jobs throughout the country. In addition to that, anytime you add more oil into the mix, it's going to bring down prices, gasoline prices, for example. Oil is a globally traded commodity, so it's going to take a lot of oil to even get those prices down a bit, but every little bit helps, and this would bring a lot of oil down from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico.
Therein lies the problem. I don't think, Chris, that they want to bring the price down. I think there's too much of a tie with the environmentalists to rope around Obama's neck to the point where they think, if the prices go down, America's going to drive more, and that means they don't like that environment that's going to happen. I think that right now, my chances, I'm going to tell you, I thought originally he was going to sign. But right now, I'm looking at Obama less than 20%. I think he's going to sign that Keystone Pipeline.
I'm with you on that. Every day that passes, my hopes that he's going to approve this pipeline go down. And it really is a shame. But it's not a surprise. This is the same administration who said they wanted electricity prices to necessarily skyrocket. And you're seeing the same thing when it comes to oil and gas prices. They want people on the road less. They want people driving less, and by raising the prices or keeping those prices high, they're accomplishing that.
I am you're the press secretary of IER, and you probably read every single story or hear about every story that's coming down the pike relating to energy. But my goodness, Chris, I mean, here's a society that has always been independent. We have always had transportation. We could always go to Aunt Martha's and Uncle Fred's. We could always drive to Yellowstone. We could always do that. And that all helps the economy, whether it's the motels, the restaurants, or whatever it might be. What is the matter? And I'm just going to come out and say the idiocy and stupidity of this Obama administration.
It really does come down to that. I mean, energy plays an important role in every facet of our everyday lives, whether it's driving to and from work, turning the lights on, every single part of our lives. And the fact that this administration wants to raise those prices and keep those prices high for Americans is really disconcerting.
What about the Democrats? Talk to me a little bit about the Democrats that are coming out against Obama.
Yeah, you see some of these Democrats, especially in these states that are red, that are energy-producing states. Now that we're getting to around the time election season, you're seeing a lot of these politicians, a lot of these Democrats saying, "Oh, well, we're all for energy. I'm for the Keystone Pipeline," which is great. But at the same time, it's where were you 5 years ago when this was going on? So it kind of boils down to when does it favor them. And like I said, it's good news because we do want to get this thing approved, and it is a bipartisan issue. A lot of people want, on both sides, and most Americans want to approve Keystone Pipeline. So it is comforting to know that they are kind of coming around to this.
Chris, if he doesn't sign for the Keystone Pipeline, what then? Give us the negatives.
If he doesn't what?
If he doesn't sign in favor of the Keystone Pipeline, give us the negatives that we might look forward to.
And that's one of the big issues with this is that these oil sands from Canada are going somewhere. They're not just going to stay in the ground, and they might as well come through here. So if the president doesn't approve Keystone, if he continues to delay it, then these are going to come by rail, which is a good way to transport oil, but not as safe or as efficient as pipelines, or it's going to go out west to the west coast of Canada and go to China. So it's going somewhere. It should come to America, where the refineries are producing cleaner oil, cleaner gasoline than other areas of the world.
I'm 66 years old, and Chris, I am very, very upset that I drive into a town, either way, it's 25 miles, either direction, to try to gas up my diesel truck that I need for my ranch and pulling my horse trailers, and I'm spending $150 or more to fill that outfit up, and it's needless, it's mindless, it's insanity, the money that we're wasting on energy right now, and America's not seeing any benefit from it.
No, you're right, and the highest percentage of what we spend our money on is usually on energy because it does run through everything that we do, and it really is not good for American people, for American families, especially with summer coming around, with spring break going on right now, having to spend more on gasoline to take their families on vacation. It really is. It's a bad deal for the American people.
Well, look at the last final thought on this morning, but look at the influx and the growth of the infrastructure and the economy if we had an energy program that was somewhat sensible instead of this idiocy that they're trying to promote. Solar and wind power. What a joke.
They really are. They don't work. They're intermittent. They're unreliable. We can't power our economy, let alone our turning on the lights in the morning on these types of energy sources. We need coal, we need oil, we need natural gas, we need nuclear. Those are the reliable source of energy, not wind and not solar.
What's looking down the line? I mean, if you were to look into a crystal ball regarding prices or availability or what's going to happen going into the next 2 years of this administration, what are your biggest fears?
Right now, the biggest fears are that they'll somehow break into regulating state and private lands, production right now. That's where most of our production is coming from because the federal government has all the federal lands and waters under lock and key. But if they can get their hands on and control state and private lands, then that's bad news for American people because that's where this energy is coming from. It's our hopes that, down the line that we'll be able to open up and tap into all these resources, whether it's on state and private lands or federal lands. But right now, that's probably our biggest fear.
You made the comment and you said if they can get their hands on, how would they make their hands on to private lands and what would they do?
Well, you're seeing a lot, just as it's been consistent throughout this entire presidency, is that the president is going to rule by regulation, by his pen and paper is what he says. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the EPA do greenhouse gas emission rules on coal-fired power plants. Natural gas is the next in line, their next target. You're seeing them try to regulate hydraulic fracturing, which is the whole reason we're going through this natural gas boom right now. So by regulating these things, it's their hope to choke off that production. Which would be devastating to the economy.
Using your words, choke off, wouldn't that be an enlightening little story to hear that happening to the EPA?
Oh, I completely agree. I think last time I was on your show, we talked about it wouldn't bother me a bit if they couldn't find the keys to the door over at the EPA, and I feel the same way about that today. They need to be doing a little less regulating and more looking out for the American people.
Absolutely. Chris Warren, Institute for Energy Research Press Secretary. The minute you get word of anything regarding Keystone, please come back on the program and tell us about it. Would you please?
Will do, and thanks for having me.
All right. God bless. Have a good day. Thank you very much. Ooh, Chris, stay there just a minute. Are you there? I guess we lost him. Caller, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't get your call until I said goodbye. Go ahead.
Well, instead of asking him what I wanted to, I'll go ahead and do this. I've been taking notes today on your program.
Okay, good. I'm glad you took notes. Now, what can I do for you?
First Amendment area deal you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They did the same thing down in Texas when they had the Kennedy's murder anniversary, and Alex Jones got the same thing happened to him as what was happening to the people there in Nevada. They were beating them up, tasering them, and women and children both down there because they were out of the First Amendment zone.
Well, I will say this. This whole thing, whether it happened in Texas with the anniversary or whether it happened right now with the Bundy situation down in Las Vegas, I absolutely am appalled that we are duped into thinking that there is such a thing as a First Amendment zone. Okay, what's your second point? I'm running out of time here. Go ahead.
Okay, well, this is the first time when those BLM people backed off and we walked in. First time I've been proud to be an American since 1963, November 22nd.
I appreciate your involvement in this, and I will say that it's going to take a lot of people to get involved. But the story about what's going on down in Nevada is so much more than just somebody's cattle. It's so much more than BLM grazing rights. It's so much more than a desert tortoise. It's so much more, including Harry Reid and his son and a... Not again. I hope. Am I back?
Yes, you are.
I would like to find out whoever is clipping my phone and clipping my program. Here is a threat. Don't get within arm's length, or better yet, crutch length of me. I am frustrated with this. Now it's happening at a different time on the program, and I'm going to somehow call the wonderful phone company that said I didn't have a problem, and I'm going to tell them, yes, they do have a problem.
Well, it happened specifically at 10:19:30.
10:19:30. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you.
You're welcome. We've got a phone call for you.
All right, caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Okay, I get to finish.
Real fast. I did not cut you off, by the way. I got cut off.
We both did.
All right, go ahead.
Anyway, now, what about Otter's Chinese giveaway? How much money did he make on that deal?
You know, I'm going to be doing a lot of research. I'm glad you brought that up about the Chinese and their supposed acreages that they bought up between Mountain Home and Boise. And I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to allow too much said about it this morning until I get more information myself, because I want to find out what's going on. But I will agree with you and stand shoulder to shoulder with you. When I think about a Chinese energy company, one of the biggest in the world, coming into Nevada and making deals under the table with Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid and his son and other people, I'm very worried and concerned and quite frankly scared. And I'm going to do all I can to expose it.
Yep.
All right, sir.
Keep it going, because, you know, the mainstream isn't going to say a word.
I agree. Boy, I agree with that. Thank you for your call. I do appreciate it. Thank you. That caller's right. There's a lot of things that we need to absolutely be worried and concerned about as cover-ups as to what's going on. Look at down there with Harry Reid and his son Rory. Rory Reid. Sounds like a movie name, doesn't it? If you didn't hear the first hour, I'll give you a real quick synopsis. Supposedly, Rory, his boy, works for a big legal company. He's a lawyer down in Las Vegas, and they were making deals with a Chinese power company to come in and get the same land that the Bundys are running cattle on. It would have been a building of a $5 billion with a B dollar solar farm and panel building plant, and they found out now that there's been so many under-the-table deals, and there's been certain cash gratuities, and why a Chinese company over an American company, and why the cronyism with some of the people that worked with Harry Reid on his election campaign, and now they found out that there's illegal contributions. Why isn't all this being brought forth to the general public on the general media, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN? It doesn't make any difference who. Why aren't these stories being looked into? I want to say that every Thursday on Zeb at the Ranch, we have a segment called School Days in Cassia County, and we have a wonderful, wonderful group of people that come on and have been interviewed about what's going on with the Cassia County school system, and it's brought to you by two wonderful sources, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, where they've got hundreds and hundreds of spring dresses beginning at just $20, and all you have to do is crack an egg and get an additional 15 to 50% off. That's at A Child's World. You better stop in today, and don't forget, they've got all the Cherokee and Dickey scrubs, too, ready for you at A Child's World. Along with Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Oh, my goodness sakes, save a lot of money. If you're planning a surgical procedure, call 677-8888, and you could literally save hundreds of dollars by having your doctor use the Ambulatory Surgery Center. Give them a call, find out more, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cassia County. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm thinking that since the United States owes China so much money, and we don't have that kind of money to pay back, look at how wonderful it is that we have this public land that the government can take away from the West and let China have it in payment for our debt.
Does it bother you?
Another thing is we need to keep our eye on even Butch Otter. He was back in Washington, D.C. for, 4 or 6 years, and he knows all about these kinds of things. So why not let them in to Idaho too?
I am very, very cognizant that the Chinese, we're up to our necks in debt with the Chinese, and we've made probably a lot of very special deals in the selling or giving away of America. And this deal down in Las Vegas is the foremost in my thought right now. Secondarily, I will also say I'm going to be doing a lot more checking into what's going on here in the state of Idaho. But Chris, real quick, and then I've got to wrap this up. Your thoughts about a Chinese power company, Harry Reid, his son, the Desert Tortoise, the mess with the Bundy cattle. This is more of a developing story instead of one that's all done.
Yes, it is, and I think there is a lot more, if we can ever scratch below the surface, that we will find out. And I would like to make a little bid to the people in your listening audience. We have in the Tea Party a bunch of guys running for office who want to be preserving those rights for our federal land.
Absolutely.
And get them back in the hands of Idaho.
Absolutely. Chris, thank you for your call this morning.
Mm-hmm.
God bless.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Jack, pick your microphone up and forget your papers for a few minutes. That's making noise on the air. Jack Euler is here, and he's going to be my guest for the next 30 minutes on this program. Jack, you know about the Endangered Species Act. You know probably more about it than anybody else. And the hypocrisy and the lunacy that's going on down in Nevada over the Desert Tortoise and what the BLM and the powers that be, they tried to kill the doggone tortoise and move it away, and nobody ever made any stories about that.
I know it, and it's interesting that just a few years ago, a couple of years ago, in California, they were going to put a big unit in there.
A solar plant.
A solar plant in the desert, and there was the desert tortoise that went through that area, and they bypassed that, and said they were going to move the tortoises there also.
Yeah.
In any other endangered species, I mean, it's a lockdown situation, and we're off the land, but you take this green side, and you're going to put a green project. Anything can happen.
Jack, real quick.
It's ridiculous.
I got to ask you this, though, because it's very offensive to me. And you, of anybody, knows the intricacies of what goes on with the Endangered Species Act and everything else. But the Chinese and a huge power company plant down there called ENN, they want to have a $5 billion solar farm. The Chinese, Jack, this is America. Does that not bother you like it bothers me?
Bothers me very much. Bothers me that they tried to build a place down in Long Beach for ships to come in, and that finally got shut down. We better watch out. We're being taken over.
We're being bought out.
We're being bought out, yes.
And we're being sold out by people like Harry Reid. And, I'm not going to be accusatory to the final degree in saying that, yes, he's as guilty with his fingerprints all over this story as is his son with that law firm and his other people, Harvey Whitmore, etc. But when you get stories like this that are sent to me by very reliable sources like Newsmax, and they itemize and categorize what Harry Reid has done, what his son has done, what the Chinese with ENN have done, what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service did to euthanize supposedly an endangered species, doesn't that make you just have a whole bunch of questions?
Very much so, but it's like I said earlier this morning when I called in. This is all about money, and you just said it. It is about money, and money drives whatever the administration wants it to drive.
Money, and there's no honesty, because we just heard also a very chilling story, and I've got about 30 seconds left here, that the former CBS reporter Sharyl Attkisson has said that the White House has been basically pressuring the media not to carry stories.
Well, and, that doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me a bit. You look at the way they act.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch them, I've quit watching.
That's the thing I don't think we should do. I think we should be more vigilant, more so than ever, so we can categorize exactly what they're doing.
That's probably true, but I've sat at the table with him too many times.
I know you have. Jack Euler will be here. We're going to be talking about predators and what can be done about predators, and also maybe informing some of the news media about predators. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Don't go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much and welcome back. Last half hour, and I'm blessed to have one of my dearest friends on the program with me, Jack Euler. Jack has been and will be forever, I think, enshrined in the idea that he knows more about wolves and wolf reintroduction and the mess it's caused to our economy and our wildlife. And also he's very well versed in what's going on with the sage grouse problem and possibly listing the sage grouse as an endangered species. And for a long, long time, Jack has been on this program, among other people, and said that we absolutely have to do something about predation in the state of Idaho. We've got thousands and thousands and thousands of predators that absolutely are enhancing or exacerbating the problem. Jack, good morning, and I'd like you to comment, if you would, please, about predators in the state of Idaho that now everybody wants to leave alone.
Well, if you read the paper, yes, everybody wants to leave them alone. The Fish and Game has a little bit of that on their plate too, but our new Fish and Game commissioner, he doesn't feel that way, and he thinks that predators should be controlled.
You know, we were talking about, the sage grouse, and you mentioned on a program not too many weeks ago when you were here that the ravens absolutely are a predator that must be controlled because of going after the eggs. But the Times News and their wonderful editorial staff took exception of this, and they just said, quoth the raven, just kill it. So evidently they're against taking care of predators.
Well, and I wrote an article about this, about predators, and I tried to get it in the paper, and I've tried to get it in the paper for about 2 months, and they won't print it.
Okay, now my question is this. They will put articles in the paper from a guy that's an avowed environmentalist like Rocky Barker, and yet here you live here, and you've been the biggest contributing force of information about the wolves and everything else, and they won't print an article that you wrote. Why?
I told them if my name was Rocky Barker, they would print it, and they did not disagree with me. I'm a little livid over what has happened, but let's go back to the issue. Let's get away from what the paper is. You know what they are, and I know what they are. But is there a problem? You know, in this article that they had in the paper, it says that there is no biological reason that we should be killing the ravens. Well, do we want to protect a species that is going to shut down our economy, or do we not want to? And if we're not going to take care of the predators that's taken the nests, and they say that there is no biological information about this, if they would have done their homework, it states in there that 82.5% of the nests are failures on sage grouse as a result of predation by ravens. Now, this is done by Lockyer in 2013. And there's another biologist by the name of Moynihan who did a research thing in Nevada on this in 2007 that says 94% of the sage grouse nests are gone as a result of predation.
All right, now let me quote from a paragraph of that editorial that we were talking about in the Times News, and they said, quote, the vast majority of research concluded that sage grouse populations are in decline because of expanding human footprint, not because of non-human predation. How would you respond to that?
Well, that has some effect, but
not the effect that they want to bring onto it. And when they bring and start talking about that, they are talking about grazing. And grazing helps sage grouse. Grazing helps sage grouse chicks.
Why don't they understand that?
Because they haven't done their homework on what sage grouse chicks need to live when they are first born.
Well, basically, and caller, I'll be right with you, stand by, they're blaming it on, in this newspaper op-ed piece, overgrazing, overhunting, and suburbs expanding onto the former grasslands. How would you respond to the rest of that paragraph?
The biggest threat to sage grouse and sage grouse habitat is fire in Nevada and Idaho, both. And grazing, it's way down the list.
Absolutely. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Thanks. A question to Jack. Jack, you need to clear up something for a lot of people. The first thing is there's 2 large black birds that fly around our community, and the crows are proliferating mightily fast, lots of them. So explain the difference between the smaller crow and the larger raven. Would you do that for us, please, so that people can keep on track with you?
We'll do that over the air. Thank you, sir, for your call. Jack, and there is a difference there, but how would you discern the difference?
Well, ravens are a bigger threat than crows are, but crows also eat eggs, and they're a predatory bird, as magpies are. There's several birds that are predatory birds, but the raven is the one that is the worst, and it has increased, according to these studies, over 600% in the last 10 years.
This is the raven you're talking about?
Yes,
okay.
And some studies show that it has increased from 1,000 to 1,200% in the last 10 years.
Now, Jack, let's stop right there, and I really appreciate that man calling with that question. Are these protected birds? Ravens, crows, magpies, etc.?
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask the Fish and Game, yes. They are migratory birds, so they say that they are protected. But the Fish and Game has a letter in their files where they were requested in August of 1994, they requested the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, is it illegal to kill magpies in Idaho? And the answer was no, and if there was more than one going to the same place, you can assume they're going to predate.
Okay, now
and you can kill them. And it listed 5 birds, and crows and magpies were on that list.
Now, you know, and I wasn't being facetious, you're one of my dearest friends, have been for many, many years. You know that here we had a severe magpie problem. And if you'll go out right now, they've come back into the north end of my barn, and I am eliminating them. They're a dirty, filthy, disease-carrying bird. And they've done nothing but disrupt everything else here on the place. They've gone in and they've absolutely made their mess on all my water tanks and everything, and I've eliminated a lot of their population. Am I illegal or not?
No, as far as I'm concerned, I've got that letter from the Fish and Game and from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that talks about this issue. Mm-hmm. But you brought up a very interesting point, Zeb. You brought up something about disease. Well, the ravens carry West Nile virus.
That's right.
They fungi and mad cow disease are some of the things that they carry. Now, they spread these things.
That's right.
And, the health and welfare is an issue, and ravens even kill cattle when they're first born, and sheep.
Take their eyes out.
Yes, they take their eyes out.
And if you think for 5 seconds out there in the land of all that's good and holy that you're going to see a couple of magpies flying around my barn, you're not, because they're going to get eliminated. I will not put up with these birds, and I don't care if they're so-called protected or not.
I talked to a rancher last Friday night who is on the place where I did a grant for sage grouse work for 2 years, and he has lost 7 calves this spring to ravens and predation.
We've got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Go ahead. You're hitting your phone dial or something. Be careful. Go ahead.
No, I'm not doing that.
Well, I'm not either, and neither one of us are, so go ahead.
Somebody else is.
All right.
Hey, anyhow, I just got a quick question. I in the tree, and it nested and had baby robins in the nest, and I would go out and check it every once in a while. Are you there?
Yeah, repeat that again, and hold your phone really still, because for some reason you're cutting off. Go ahead and try that again, quickly, please.
Well, anyhow, this robin had babies, and this crow would sit up there day after day and keep an eye on that robin. One morning I went out and checked the nest, and the babies were gone. Do crows eat little baby birds?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
All right, sir, and that shows more of the predation. Jack, I don't know why it is. You tell me. Why are we so protective about predators in the state of Idaho, or for that matter, the Northwest, if we have a problem with the sage grouse, and we have a problem with their predators, if we have a problem with the wolves, whether it's killing a dog, killing a calf, killing a horse, killing a colt, whatever the case might be, why are we so afraid to take care and eliminate the predators? Is that what society is today?
Well, yes. And society believes, this is my opinion, society believes in too much of this Endangered Species Act stuff that, the government uses if they want to use it, just like they're doing it on the turtle down there.
Yep.
But, there's people that are taking care, that are being proactive and trying to take care of the issue. And this started in Elko County, Nevada.
Regarding the sage grouse.
Regarding a sage grouse. It went to Box Elder County. Grant Gerber and I met with and some of the commissioners in Cassia County, and I think they're going to get on board with taking care of it. And they have in Elko County passed 2 resolutions to declaring that the raven is a nuisance and threat to the health and welfare and safety of the people of Elko County, Nevada.
What are the predators, Jack, of the sage grouse besides the raven? What are the other predators that are just being allowed to basically kill and maim and do whatever they want to, and now all the do-gooders don't want them touched?
Coyotes, foxes, and badgers.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that eats eggs are a predator to that. But any of these birds that eat eggs as a predator, they will take nests. It's like the starlings. They will take eggs out of other nests, and these do-gooders and the songbirds, these birds are killing those nests too.
So basically, the part of the story that really offended you the most, like it did me, when the writer of the story didn't basically understand when he said the expanding human footprint and hunting and overgrazing in the suburbs, that's really not the demise of the sage grouse.
Well, no. I did, a few years ago, I did a grant work for 2 years on sage grouse work on some property up northwest of Arco. And the sage grouse came back. I mean, we had sage grouse all over. And I got calls every year from the guy that ranched up there, and when he cut first crop hay, and say, would you come and get these stupid birds out of the hayfield? They will not fly, so I can cut my hay. But last Friday night, when I talked to him, he's the rancher that lost 7 calves this spring to the ravens, and he's only lost 1 to a wolf, but he says on the lek where the last few years there's been 200 or more birds out on the lek on that property, he says there are 14 to 16 this year. And so that is, and he says it's ravens. It's ravens that are the biggest problem.
What is there in society now, Jack, and then I've got to do a weather forecast, but what is there in society now to where humans, like the environmentalists, are blaming all of us other humans for being the bad guy, the villain of society? In other words, everything we do is wrong, and live and let live, let the predators have their way, let nature take its course, but blame humans for everything. That's basically what they're doing.
That's essentially it. And you can go back to the spotted owl, which took the timber industry. You can go to the salmon, it took the mining industry, the wolf. You know what that has done, and now we're looking at the sage grouse, and if the sage grouse is listed in 2015, it is going to shut down many, many businesses.
And right there, stop, and then I'll do the weather, but I want you to respond to this quickly. Do people like editors of various papers and media, by blaming human beings when in essence it's a predation problem, they're absolutely cutting their own throat in the long run, because they'll be out of business if everything gets shut down?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they should be out of business anyway.
We're going to have a weather forecast and be back with more with Jack Euler in just a moment. Our weather is brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Oh my goodness, Scarrows Meats has been in business in southern Idaho for over 20 years, offering quality products at very reasonable rates. Let me tell you, they're the best in meat cutting, and they've got their own smokehouse too. Selling taste one bite at a time. Don't hesitate. You call Scarrows Meats right now, 324-7657. Here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Well, hello, everyone. Michael Rogers, MichaelRogersWeather.com. Yeah, it's going to be sunny. Yeah, it's going to be nice. Yeah, our high today is going to be 66. 67 is a pretty good number. Overnight lows are not going to be the same. Going to start out a brand new day with a brand spanking new week of you, me, and weather. Now, you're going to have some wind on Tuesday. That wind condition, like 25, 35, gusting to 40, that'll take place. Wednesday's not going to be bad, but there's no major storms, no watches, no warnings. Just basically start out April on a Monday with Zeb at the Ranch. There you go. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right, thank you, Michael. Brought to you this hour by some wonderful people, and that's Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road in Jerome. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Sam. First chapter of Romans, at the very end, it says that there is a problem when we replace the created with the creator. And although he did create turtles and he did create sage grouse, the problem that lies therein is created by us humans. And I still haven't found an answer to the question how many sage grouse and how many turtles it takes to feed a family of 4. I still haven't found that out.
Excellent. And by the way, one thing that people forget, and I tried to remember and remind them in last week's Cow Pies and Coffee Cups blog, is that God gave human beings dominion over everything on the earth, all the plants, all the animals, and it's ours to manage, and not be managed by vice versa, the animals over human beings.
That's right.
Thank you for your call. Very well stated this morning. You know, Jack, I think that's the environmental mantra, is that damn the humans and full speed ahead for plants and animals. They seem to put their negativity on all of us, don't they?
They do. And let me go through a couple of things that I have here. I'm on the governor's task force for sage grouse. And there's 15 of us on that committee. And I have a list of them right here with the minutes from our last meeting and what we accomplished or what we didn't accomplish. And, you look at these names of the environmental groups, and then you look, I'm the only sportsman that is represented on here. But you have county commissioners, Larry Cope from Lemhi County, and you got Jerry Hoagland, who I talked to last week out in Owyhee County. And let me tell you something about what the environmental groups did with Jerry Hoagland and what they tried to do on public lands a few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, out in Owyhee County. They tried to put poison eggs out on public lands, and the Western Watersheds filed suit against them and got that closed. They got that project closed down, even after some eggs were put out and they were in the process of doing some good. Now, the environmentalists, said that couldn't be done on public lands. So everything today that is being done essentially is being done on deeded property or state lands in the 3 states that I've mentioned.
Okay, we've got a caller with a question. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, you guys.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jack, do you want to recall back in the years when Swift and Company in Burley, Idaho had to give up their business down there on Bedke Boulevard because of the starlings that was brought in here from England by the environmentalists and the Audubon Society? You remember that?
Yes, I do. They brought in the sparrows from England also. I think there was 13 of them originally.
Because I worked down there, and we'd go out and feed them. And before we get done feeding, we had to go back through and clean it all out because the starlings got in there and messed up the feed for them cattle, and then they wonder why Swift and Company was killing them off.
Yeah.
So they just closed up shop.
Al, you're right. I even remember reading about that. Thank you for your call this morning. I appreciate that.
Starlings is one of the 5 birds that's on the list in that letter.
Starlings are?
Starlings are.
As a non-shootable commodity?
No, the Fish and Game back in '94 wrote the letter to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It listed 5 bird species, and starlings, grackles, magpies, crows,
and ravens.
And
yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Jack, what can we do? We've only got a short time, and I've got to do a commercial break, but what can we do as far as predation is concerned? It looks like every time we try to have something that will be effective in helping and enhancing the sage grouse, we've got these crackpot groups that will step forward and say, no, you can't.
That's completely true, but I have just continued to work with people to try and get something done, but like I told you, we have been doing it on private land and instead of public lands because of the lawsuits that are filed by the environmental groups and the things that courts have ruled. I found that this and the wolf issue that, there's going to be lawsuits, and there will be lawsuits over what's going on today, but I encourage any of the county commissions to get on board with what Box Elder County in Utah and Elko County in Nevada and some people in Idaho are doing, and get behind them and run this through counties and not the Fish and Game. Do it through the counties and county commissions, and you can take care of a lot of the problems that exist, because under our Constitution today, the counties have a lot. It's like the county sheriff. He's chief law enforcement officer in the county.
That's right.
I mean, he can kick everybody out.
That's right.
He can kick everybody out.
I've got to do a commercial break, caller. I'll be right with you, and we'll wrap things up. Don't forget, huge spring tire sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. All the tires are on sale, like the Eclipse tire. All-season reliability, 70,000-mile warranty, long-lasting tread. All the batteries are on sale, shocks and struts, front-end alignments, and they've got the best brake value promise in the industry. What are you waiting for? Get in there today and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Great big spring tire sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, good morning. Quickly, I'm almost out of time.
Yes, one of the things that I think a lot of people forget, and even I have forgotten the details of it, but these environmentalists finagle public money to sue the BLM, Forest Service, USDA, whoever it is, and they're using our own money to sue them to accomplish their means. Thanks. I'll hang up.
Randy, that's an excellent point, and Randy's right. Tell us quickly, Jack. I've got exactly 45 seconds about that money situation.
I'll give you one example of one environmental group that gets $16 million a year from our tax dollars, and it's Defenders of Wildlife. They get $16 million a year to try and raise money for their organization, and they raise $8 million. So if you were in business for yourself, what kind of success is that?
Absolutely.
You'd be out of business.
Jack, I want to thank you again for your continued efforts, and I know that you've done so much to help us with the wolf situation and now the sage-grouse situation. Thank you for coming on the program this morning. I can't tell you how valuable you are, and keep us up to date as to what's happening on this.
On June 17th and 19th in Elko, Nevada, the 29th Western Agency's sage grouse and Columbian sharp-tailed grouse workshop is going to be held, and it's going to be held at Elko Convention Center in Elko, Nevada, and everybody is welcome to that.
All right. Jack Euler, for more questions. If they have questions, how can they get a hold of you real quick, Jack? Can they call your cell phone?
420-1233.
420-1233. Jack Euler. Got to run. Tomorrow we'll be back on the air at 8:06. Zeb at the Ranch, the way things were or the way things ought to be. God bless you and your family. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.